So for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic, the Trump administration is reportedly preparing to start wage garnishments for federal student loan borrowers who are in default beginning in January 2026. And this is already creating some massive backlash here. And so we're going to be talking about it because it's just coming up here in a couple weeks. So years after these pause collections because of this pandemic here, the Department of Education is moving forward with plans to automatically take money out of paychecks from borrowers who have fallen behind long enough to be classified as in default. In simple terms, that means that if you owe federal student loans and you haven't paid for months, the government can now legally take a chunk of your paycheck, which is about up to 15%. Before the money even reaches your bank account. So this would be like after-tax income. Now, supporters say this is enforcing existing laws and stopping people from ignoring debt indefinitely. But the critics are going to argue that millions of Americans are already struggling with inflation, right? The cost of living, the wages aren't keeping up, and seizing paychecks during a financial crisis does nothing but push people closer to homelessness and bankruptcy. This is in a time where silver is up to about $80 per single ounce. It's not a fancy dinner. That's a single ounce of tiny silver that just fits on a couple fingertips. It's crazy. And, what happens to these borrowers who are already, just one emergency away from disaster, right? This is something that could really harm a lot of Americans. And so while I understand the concept of you borrow money, you got to repay that back. And what about all the people who did already pay that back, who've already suffered through? What about them? Do they get any, compensation for now the government moving forward, with maybe say not pursuing the defaulters on their student loan repayments? These raise some interesting questions here. And so where do I fall on this aisle here? Because I want to open your guys' minds up to something really quick, right? As Americans and, as patriots of this country, one of the things that we decided on long ago was that education should be a right for all children in this country, right? And so from the ages of about 5 all the way up to roughly speaking 18, 19, you can go to public school in a city that you live in, right? Or maybe even a city or two over. And so now we have a situation where kids can, get that preparation for the workforce. Now, maybe it's not perfect, and believe me, it is definitely not perfect. The education system is so bloody broken, you can't even believe it. That's what my doctorate is in, is education. And so believe me, nobody hates the education system more than I do. Believe me on that. But what I can say is that the last thing you want to do is abandon it altogether. And so I think as a logical extension to that, if now these jobs are requiring, they're mandating that people have to go to college and university, shouldn't we at least say, okay, like if you have to go, how about we offer, through our public universities and community colleges that we offer free or at least extremely, extremely subsidized education for people who want to pursue that tertiary level, right? And so, look, you finish up high school, like say you want to be like a teacher, for example, right? Now you can maybe go to school for free, right? To get that, you get that paid for, right? And by free, obviously, we're paying it with tax dollars, right? So as the Republicans come around and say, oh my God, well, it's not free. We have to pay with tax dollars. It's like, bro, like we already do that for K through 12. And it really should be pre-K through 12 because preschool is actually the most important grade out of every single grade in the entire education system. But for some reason, it's the only grade that's like not mandatory. It makes no bloody sense. But, with college and university here, it's like, look, why not? It's a logical extension. People need it to be successful. Why are we saddling people with all of this debt? I just don't understand it for the life of me. And one of the things that Biden tried to do, and this is one of the only good things that I think Biden did try to do, and I'm no fan of Biden. Like, yeah, I might be a Democrat, but believe me, I hate all the Democrats who've been in office for decades and decades and decades. I think they're all war criminals. I think they're terrible people. So like that's full disclosure here, right? Like, believe me, I'm no fan. But one of the nice things that he did was he tried to erase that student debt from the people who have these federal student loans. And I think that that's, it's one of those things where like the generations from beforehand just have to be envisioned like, okay, look, like I know this sucks. I know we had to pay back our money. I know that we're going to get nothing in return for this. It's like, but this is something that we can do for future generations, right? We can help them out with a better financial position than what we had. And this is especially true considering that college university no longer even helps you get a job, right? But yet it's still mandatory at the same time, right? And so when you look at the numbers on this, right, especially if you're a Gen Z male, any more education after high school actually actively hurts you, right, in terms of employment. And then if you're a Gen Z female, anything after a bachelor's degree actively hurts you. And that number is soon going to make it so that way anything after high school hurts you as well. So this is not a good situation that we are currently in, ladies and gentlemen, and you can verify all of this. So that's bad, right? And then, with the student loan thing, like, what does Trump do, right? So he's trying to attack this issue. What did he say? He said, okay, well, you know what? We'll make it so that way federal student loans can only be up to a certain dollar amount. And that dollar amount is extremely limited depending on what profession that you're in. And so some of these, like, he doesn't even really consider to be like, just like the real types of professions here, things like nursing and education. You're like, oh my God. And fact check me on the nursing one. I could get that wrong, but I certainly know with teachers, right? Because that's my profession, is education. Like they got like huge attack there, right? And since a lot of these tertiary institutions, things like graduate school, for example, are going to cost a lot more than what those minimums are. That means you have to go to the private side for loans, and as you know, that's where a lot of his big donors lie, and that's where they're going to make a lot more money. Right, because now instead of just taking out a federal student loan with lower interest rates, now you can take out the private ones. And the private ones, they'll be happy to lend you money because you'll be in debt to them for the rest of your life. And you'll never default on that loan either, because everybody knows it's one of the only types of loans that you can never do away with, right? And that's kind of a misnomer too, because there's so many loans out there in the country. Like if you want to start like a business, for example, right? First of all, it's like starting a business is like absolutely impossible. You got to have like permits for signs on your own private property. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? There's so much bureaucracy and just government overreach in the private sector. But having said that, right? Like usually if you want to start a business, you probably have to get a loan, and those loans just secure personal guarantees, which are non-bankruptable. And so that's like really, really bad. And so, like this is not good, guys. Like I think that we need to really take a step back here and look at maybe here's a suggestion too. We compromise, right? Because that's what politics is about, is compromising. How about we say, okay, look, you're gonna have to pay back all your debt. Sucks, dude. That's what you're gonna have to do. Supreme Court already decided on it. That's just the law of the land. That's what you're gonna have to do. But going forward, we can try to take some federal money. We can try to subsidize education as much as we can, and we can push this, try to like through Congress, for example. Why is this not a thing? Right? Public universities and these institutions here should be free. If you want to go, you can. And I'm not talking about private sector, and I'm not talking about I'm not talking about those institutions here which are just absolutely robbing people, so the federal government's going to guarantee them that money. But what I think that we could see is at least some institutions, whether or not the government has started themselves, where it's like, look, tuition's $10,000 a year, government's going to front the bill, right? And maybe we could do that everywhere, right? So at the very least, we get a subsidy, right, on behalf of the federal government. And this costs almost nothing, right? I mean, we're talking almost nothing in compared to what we send over to foreign countries. I mean, we send billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars over all the bloody time. And we spend billions of dollars on things that do not need billions of dollars all the time. And so how about educating the populace of your country? Why is that not one of the number one priorities? To me, that makes absolutely no sense. Yet this is something that seems to be relatively divisive in this country. And I'm not saying that you abandon people who don't want to go to university, because I don't even support going to university, right? I'm literally a doctor and I don't support going to university. There, I said it, right? Like, I don't think it actually helps people out. I think you should be very, very, very cautious if that's something that you want to do. And like, yeah, there's a place for people who do want to go to university. It's like, but those people are rare, and we should treat them as such. But what I will say is it's like, look, one thing that probably should be supported is maybe like a community college. Definitely, no doubt, because that's like you get your prereqs in, you can explore a little bit, try to figure out some things that you might want to do. And then two, we're not going to be ignoring the people in the trades. How about we try to give them some subsidies so that they can help, their business in their own life, right? If they don't want to go to university, right? Because school kind of ends really after high school, right? And it's like, and then you can start to specialize and whatnot. So maybe, we try to do something for them as well. And then I think we start getting into the conversation of UBI, universal basic income, where you can spend your money on whatever it is that you choose. And maybe that's the best way to do it, right? Because, if you want to start a family, or if you want to, start a business, or if you want to, go work in a trade, or you want to just go start working manual labor right away, or maybe you want to go to university and college. It's like, now you have that money to do that, but you can decide that yourself. And maybe we make certain caveats with that as well, because obviously you don't want people just, throw it all on red or something. And it's like, they lose on the roulette spin, and it's over from them. They don't have their money anymore. And so maybe, you kind of classify it something like, I don't know, like an EBT card, for example, right? You can only spend on certain things. It's like, but those things have to be justified, just like they'd have to be justified, as like a business expense for your taxes, right? So maybe we do something like that, right? But we can make this broad. You can literally have people sit down for like a week in a room, and they can figure out like all the things that this should be allowed for and all the little areas and sectors, right? And if there's something that's not approved, like we spell that out too, right? And then if there's anything that's not mentioned, it's like it'll be on a case by case basis, but those things will be rare. And hell, we could probably even have AI get integrated into this too, so make the process nice and smooth. Click, 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 done. We approved or disapproved. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like there's so many solutions here, and that's just what we're doing, right? Like, I don't have the answers to this. I don't. It's like, but what I will say is like, what we're doing now is not working. This is actively hurting Americans. And so if you want to help Americans, this is what you do, because we got to be looking towards the future. Things are different. This is not the 1980s, right? This is 2025, and things are bad, right? So we have to start looking for solutions to fix things. Right. And so, whether or not, we go towards like the UBI side of things, or whether or not we try to just subsidize these universities through federal funds, whatever it is, we try to get Congress and the Senate on this. It doesn't matter. But we got to do something. Right. Because inaction is something that we cannot afford to maintain any longer. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. But what I will say is, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button here. Again, we're just spitballing here. And again, if anybody ever tries to clip this right in the future, just say, look, he was just spitballing, right? Trying to come up with some solutions. He does not have all the solutions. You can literally clip that. But what I will say, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we'll talk to you later, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Ian Phillips. See ya.